I just want to remind you that you're going to crush it today.
Yo, welcome back to the lab. I'm your host, Elias Benjaloon. Join me as we dive into the science behind the hustle of badass entrepreneurs working smarter, not just harder. In every experiment, we're going to dive in on business tactics and life lessons, enjoy some hip hop, and experience a moment of gratitude. Thank you so much for being here. Now let's win this digital revolution together. As always, we're going to kick things off with some dope music, so I'll see you in there.
Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Hustle Science Experiment. Today, I'm super excited. I've got Juan Campos. He is the VP of Technology over at the Manos Accelerator via the Google Launchpad. He is also a lecturer at UC Berkeley on growth marketing. Juan, you do so many different things. Thank you for finding the time to join us on another episode of this podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, man. Thank you again for coming on the show. We always started off by with this one question, so kick it off from here, which is, what kickstarted entrepreneurship for you?
So, first of all, thank you so much for having me on the show. This is super fun. And yeah, I'd love to share this with you. So I started my career thinking that I was going to be a musician. I always thought I was going to do music, and I played like piano and guitar and drums and bass, and I was like, for sure I'm going to do music. And whenever I was going to graduate high school, I had this deal with my parents that I was also going to go to school at the same time and do the whole music thing. And of course, like studying music, what I wanted to do was music. So I asked them, I enrolled to study music business. And my fallback plan in case that the music thing didn't work out was music business, start a record label. It sounded like a great idea at the time. It was not a great idea at the time. I lived in Kansas City, and the music scene in Kansas City at the time was still very budding. And if you know anything about the Midwest, most major bands don't really necessarily stop in Kansas City for a tour or anything. Like Lady Gaga wasn't stopping in my hometown of Lee Summit, but that was the original idea. So I was kind of an accidental entrepreneur in that sense. But what fascinated me about music and what I understood early on was that no matter how good the music itself was, I was not going to be able to guarantee any success for the band and for the album if I didn't understand how to get listeners on it. So where my other bandmates would really obsess over like the quality of the sound and the patches and everything, I started getting really interested in like, literally none of this matters if we can't get people to listen to the songs. Right. And that's when I first had my first taste of growth hacking, even though I didn't know it, it's to get people to listen to the music. And then like fast forward a million pivots. I don't know how much you want to deep dive into that, but that's what led me into what I am today was accidental entrepreneurship by studying music business and falling in love with traction by understanding that no matter how good the product is, if you can't get people to use it, then you don't have a company.
Awesome, man. Yeah, no, that makes so sense. We don't need to dive super deep into it. I'm just super curious, like what is it that got people into their entrepreneurial journey? I mean, definitely sounds like there was 100 different pivots from then till now. But how about we just take all the experience that you've generated over the last couple of years and, share that through these lessons today. So the normal format of the shows, we'll do a business lesson and a life lesson, and you're like the guest professor of the class today. So for the business lesson today, Juan, what are we learning about? What should we dive into?
I want to make this super relevant for your listeners because I am under the impression that they are agency owners and they are, or they're like freelancers. They're either freelancers or agency owners. And I think that what I've learned could really help a lot of agency owners at the beginning is to not have diverse source of incomes. There's a book that totally changed my life and my perspective and approach to business, which is the book Built to Sell. And what Built to Sell taught me was that you can, even just knowing that it's even possible to productize a service and get it to a point where you have a direct customer acquisition strategy, you have a direct product, like productized business that you're servicing every single time for every single customer. It's the exact same way. It's not a la carte, it's not concierge. It's not, scaling up or down depending on the needs of the specific client. And then having a good referral system or some good way for you to then loop that money back in gives you the ability to essentially like print your own money. because you're able to have every dollar that comes in give you a return on the investment, and then you're able to take a cut out of it for managing that machine and then scale the business that way. If you are able to essentially make sure that the business can run with or without you by having that focus and not diversifying the income streams, not diversifying the product, not diversifying the customer acquisition strategies, then you are able to essentially have the luxury of eventually possibly exiting your business. But as long as the business is always relying on you working full-time in it, and you as the expert being the only one in the company that understands how you onboard clients, the only one in the company that understands all of the different subtleties about how you price, the only one in the company that understands in depth how you can actually service each of the different clients that bought different packages because you had different price points, then you will never have a built to sell business, and you may scale that to 6 figures. If you're a top performer, that shouldn't be the problem, but you can't scale it to like 7 figures and beyond, nor can you eventually actually exit out of the business, whether that literally means selling the company or just winning your role out of it so that you can carve out more time for yourself. So that's by far the most impactful thing that changed my career, I would say like easily in the last 10 years, was understanding the build to sell paradigm.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. That's actually a lesson I feel like I've been learning over the last like 3 to 6 months as we've been really drilling down on our like standard processes for just really specific core services that are ultra repeatable for all of our clients and the same every single time, and have been finding more freedom as we've been able to hire people who understand that very specific and only that thing, and then growing the business that way. I find it interesting though, because like it may sound contradictory at first, right? Like not having diverse income streams at the beginning. Like, because you hear a lot of like, say, for example, Warren Buffett's rule of like investing and having 7 different income streams instead. But it makes total sense because you're building a whole factory. And if you're having multiple income streams, that means you're having to operate multiple different factories, which is way more time than anybody. What are some key levers like that you would focus on in order to do that? Like, where would you start? Would you start really at like the operating procedures? Is it something that has to do with the offer more? Like you're talking about something that's super important, but also I think is difficult for agency owners, which is like moving away from like a concierge artist type of service to a productized, commoditized service.
Yeah, this is all a function of you reverse engineering, trying to get a client to wire money into your bank account. Like that's ultimately what you're doing. And as an artist myself, I really understand the tug of war here, because you as a creator want to create something that's amazing and that's unique every time. But ultimately you need to put on your CEO hat and think of it, okay, just as objectively as I can, what is the best way for me to transfer that money, right? From a client account where they're like more than happy to send it to me because I'm solving a very real problem for them. If you're able to put yourself in the shoes of the client in this manner, you're able to tweak all of the processes, the onboarding, the product itself, the amount of revisions, everything in service of what is in the client's best interest, right? So the client doesn't really care how the sausage is made as long as their pain point is being delivered on. It's why sometimes a lot of graphic designers have like a really hard time with the fact that, you know, Fiverr, you can get a logo on Fiverr for like $5, and then my logo is $500, and we can, you know, mock the Fiverr logo all we want, but at the end of the day, there is a segment of the market that they don't even need a good logo or a memorable logo or anything. They just need a placeholder for like their first business cards that they're making right now, and they know they're going to change it later on. So I think all of this is a function of what the client needs and the pain point that they're trying to solve, and having a very specific buyer persona for it, so that you're not a $500 logo designer targeting the $5 market. You're a $500 designer targeting the $500 market that is actually looking for that kind of logo. And the pain points and the things that they're looking for are going to be totally different. They're obviously not looking for value. Are they looking for, you know, a certain amount of revisions? Are they looking for a certain amount of deliverables that you give to them, editable files? Are they looking for meetings, right? So you stack all of your services and the actual core offer of the productized service in this case in favor of what it takes to get the client to very, very willingly and joyfully transfer the money over to you. If you can like turn on your lizard brain, like your left brain on for some time and actually just do what's right for the business, you can then coast the rest of the time just being the artist inside of those, I don't know, that framework that you create for yourself.
Awesome, man. I really appreciate it, Juan. Thank you so much. That's super valuable. And I'm just curious, have you ever, like, I know you come from a very hardcore startup background. You've launched multiple startups. You've launched multiple companies. Have you ever operated within the realm of like an agency? Are you an agency owner? Is that something that's in your future? Can you shed some light there?
Oh yeah. So whenever I first came to California, it was because I got funding by Sprint, the phone company, and that attracted the attention for a tech startup, not for an agency, for a tech startup. And that attracted the interest of one of the largest, actually the largest accelerator in the world, which is based in Sunnyvale, California. And so I came out here, and in the middle of all of that, Sprint stopped the funding. They were having a lot of money issues, and they stopped the funding. And so here I was going through an accelerator without any funding from Sprint, which was originally why I moved to like one of the most expensive ecosystems. And I was freaking out. I'm like, how am I going to make money? So I realized that most of my background, all the way back to music, was in customer acquisition. That's like what I knew how to do. And even in the tech things that I had done, I was always in the role of growth hacking and customer acquisition. So I started freelancing that for other companies in the Bay Area, for other venture-backed startups. And I was able to work with companies that have raised anywhere, I mean, we're really fast forwarding through the story here, but anywhere between $100,000 and $100 million that then went IPO and did amazing things. And all of that was under an agency model. So I am very familiar with the agency space. Actually, one of my clients was Antco from Fiverr, and they target freelancers and agencies. So everything from running their, I don't know, like their Facebook group, the community, we launched the 6-figure freelancer audio course with some top-notch freelancers that are just totally crushing it and demystified how other freelancers can make that kind of money.
Nice.
It really got like my feet wet with like, okay, this is like the right way of doing things versus maybe what I was doing before.
Okay. Awesome, man. I love that. Let's keep moving forward. I want to respect your time for today. We'll dive into the moment of gratitude. So the reason why we do this is because a lot of people, I find that a lot of people still compare themselves to other things, still look for external validation when there's already so many things for us to be grateful for us to be happy about. And so that's why we do this moment of gratitude every single episode. It could be as small or as big as you want it to be, but what is something that you're feeling particularly grateful for today?
I'm grateful for abundance, just an abundance of good vibes and health and wealth and opportunities. And it's not always easy to like trick yourself into thinking that the world just has that much for you to offer, but it is out there. And I just always love reminding myself of that. That's kind of like my gratitude mantra, so to speak.
Nice.
Is abundance. There is opportunities. There are people out there. There are connections. There is money out there. Just that's what I'm grateful for always.
Awesome, man. I love that. I appreciate it. To kind of piggyback my moment of gratitude today is just having an awesome team. Hired some people in like the UK and Australia and the Philippines. So they're all a day ahead of me, and I just checked in on everybody since they just finished like their Monday, and everybody's crushing it and making my life a lot easier. And hopefully that continues to get easier as we continue to grow. Let's move on to this life lesson, man. You had a really interesting topic you wanted to talk about, which was a life lesson being on death. What does that mean?
So when I was about 16, and I even to this day, I haven't really figured out what triggered this, but there was a realization when I was about 16 that I was going to die. And I remember talking about it with some of my friends, and it was such a weird thing to bring up. Like a 16-year-old talking to his other 16-year-old friends being like, so, we're going to die, right? And like everyone would just like always pull back from that conversation. Like, why are you being so negative? Right. And it just always really stuck with me. Like, but it's not negative. It just means for me, my life lesson is a death lesson. It's like, I'm not going to live forever. So it means everything you think it means. And I don't want to project on what I think it should mean for other people. I can tell you what it means in my life is to not overstress over things that I can't control, to love like infinitely and abundantly, to just bring joy to every day, and to work in a way that is absolutely scalable if every human lived in that way, which to me means leaving an impact that lasts future generations and improve the world for the better. And I really think that it's the characteristic of all the great men and women that have improved the world, is just the willingness and the self-awareness that they are gonna die, and that you basically just get one shot at it. If you share the belief that you're not gonna reincarnate, which I don't. And so that is something that for me greatly, greatly impacted my life, how I use my time, how I use my emotions and my own emotional health. It's all tied to my perspective on death.
Awesome, man. That is definitely a wild thought to have at 16, right, as a teenager, but it's super incredibly important. And I mean, I hate to say it, but like, I'm just going to say it, which is YOLO. You only live once, right? Like This is your one shot. And so you got to give it your complete all. Juan, I really appreciate your time today, man. I love to give you the space for a moment to plug anything that you're working on. Where can people learn more about you or get in touch with you?
So we're averaging about 200,000 to 1.3 million impressions on the LinkedIn content. If you would love to get free resources, if you or anyone you know is in the tech space and they want to raise venture capital, and you want access to templates for grants for your tech startup, or a pro forma that raised 4.5 million, or every tech accelerator you can apply your company to, or even the contact information of different publications that would like you to guest write for them, you can access all of them for free. Just follow me on LinkedIn, and I'm posting about like minimum once a week. So follow me on LinkedIn. My name is Juan Felipe Campos, JuanFelipe Campos, Campos. And you'll have access to all these resources, which are great for, again, tech founders that are looking to raise venture capital.
Awesome, man. I love it. Yeah, we'll drop the links everywhere, and we'll share the podcast as well. Thank you again, man. I really appreciate it.
Really appreciate you. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.